That's what I said about the individual. They said, I'm beginning to feel it, and then I'm beginning to see it. That's the process. Continuing with Neville, he says, to the natural mind, reality is confined to the instant called now. This very moment seems to contain the whole of reality to the natural mind. Everything else is unreal. To the natural mind, the past and the future are purely imaginary. In other words, my past, when I use the natural mind, is only a memory image of things that were. And to the limited focus of the carnal or natural mind, the future does not exist. The natural mind does not believe that it could revisit the past and see it as something that is present, something that is objective and concrete to itself. Neither does it believe that the future exists. You know, I read this. I initially read this, and you know that my particular book, I Will Restore, deals with physical and sexual abuse that occurs prior to the age of puberty. And you're familiar with the statistics of that. 1 out of 4 females, no matter what the culture, 1 out of 4 females have been physically, sexually abused. I rank physical abuse the same with sexual abuse because sexual abuse is physical. And physical abuse can also be beatings and all kinds of other things that take place. There's also emotional abuse. But 1 out of 4 females sexually abused prior to the age of puberty. Then males, it is 1 out of 6. 1 out of 6 across cultures. Doesn't matter what culture you are in, is happening. Even though cultures will try to cover it up and say that it doesn't happen in that culture, it is happening. And we've been reminding of this in the past few months in the various things that have come out in the media, all kinds of things that have taken place. And so this dissertation, this item that I did was dealing with physical and sexual abuse, and there were 3 losses that occur. One is the loss of voice. It's difficult to tell the story to individuals who do not understand. The other one is the loss of identity. You become known as the individual that this kind of abuse has happened to when it is known. And then there's the loss of time. Now, time is very interesting because of the aspect that when an individual has been abused, that individual has sometimes flashbacks and hallucinations. And what happens in regard to these flashbacks and these hallucinations is that it is happening now. The abuse, no matter when it was, it can be 5 minutes ago, it can be a day ago, it can be a month ago, it can be years ago, it can be just any kind of time, but it's happening now in that flashback. It's happening now. And so we know that individuals are able to actually imagine, their imagination is running really without their conscious direction of it. It is running without their conscious direction of it. And what we're talking about is running your imagination consciously, running your imagination by your own choices. So individuals are in this realm. They are in this realm. Some are doing it unconsciously. It is happening to them. And they are punishing themselves over and over and over again by virtue of this event that has taken place, by virtue of the event. And as I said, my particular book, I Will Restore, deals with this aspect of physical sexual abuse. It is so many times that individuals are trapped in the past, and that's why they cannot move forward into their future. So you want to release yourself from the past. Dr. Ricky Byers Beckwith's song, I Release and I Let Go. You want to release yourself from the past. And we're not talking about just doing something just because you know it should be done, because there are so many times you are trapped in that, even though you know that you should not be in there, and you punish yourself by saying, I should. No, this is a decision that you make that you're going to move beyond. You're going to take the steps that are necessary in order to do that. And again, I Will Restore is actually set up to help an individual to actually do that. Move beyond your past by addressing your past, not running from your past, looking at your past with the eye of consciousness, being aware. Even though, as you look at it, there may be pain and everything over the course of time, that emotional charge, you will detach from it and be able to look at it for what has occurred and recognize that there's a part of you that has not been touched by anything that has happened to you while you have been on this earth. There's a part of you deep down, and that's that spiritual dimension that is deep down inside of you. And so this aspect that to the carnal mind, to the natural mind, the past and the future are purely imaginary. But you know that when you step into that realm of spirit, it's happening now. It's happening now. What we are calling you to do is to do it consciously, to do it intentionally, to do it intentionally. You may know someone again, who has gone through a process, who may have been abused, who may have been hurt. There are all kinds of traumas, and that's the way I look at abuse. It is a trauma. The individuals are traumatized by what we call natural disasters, by sickness, by the death of a loved one. There are all kinds of traumas, and sometimes individuals remain stuck for decades in the same trauma. They're living the same story over and over and over again, and they tell the same story over and over and over again. But we're encouraging you, we're admonishing you, we're showing you how to move beyond your traumatic past. Neville continues, to the Christ mind, the spiritual mind, which is our language, we will call the fourth dimensional focus. So the Christ mind, the spiritual mind, is the fourth dimensional focus. In the Christ mind, to the Christ mind, the spiritual mind, which in our language we call the fourth dimensional focus, the past, the present, and the future of the natural mind are a present whole. It takes in the entire array of sensory impressions that man has encountered, is encountering, and will encounter. The only reason, Neville says, you and I are functioning as we are today and are not aware of the greater outlook is simply because we're creatures of habit. And habit renders us totally blind to what otherwise we would see. But habit is not law. It acts as though it were the most compelling force in the world, yet it is not law. In other words, a habit can be broken. A habit can be changed. Again, that's what we are encouraging you to do, is to change habits of thought, especially. Thinking in the same rut over and over and over again, because by virtue of your thinking that way, you are co-creating the same thing over and over and over again in your life. We can create a new approach to life. You can create a new approach to life, a new design for living. If you and I would spend a few minutes every day in withdrawing our attention from the region of sensation and concentrating it on an invisible state, and remain faithful to this contemplation, feeling and sensing the reality of an invisible state, we would in time become aware of this greater world, this dimensionally larger world. The state contemplated is now a concrete reality based in time. This is just so powerful. This is so powerful. I am, because of the way that my particular experience is and my life has been as a doctor, and looking at things and examining things, examining people who have said things, and then going back and checking them out in my own experience and seeing how they actually play out in my own experience. I have a item that is done by an individual named Dr. Ernest Holmes. I'm reading one of his books. I've read a number of his books, but there's one that I'm reading now and just practicing, and there was an item in it that was just so powerful. Now in this book, it's called The New Design for Living. I'm looking at actually the 22nd chapter in this book, and it is just so powerful. One of the things that he brings forth in regard to this is exactly what Neville Goddard is talking about, And there's a part that is vital that we understand in regard to this, because this is something that when you practice it, when you actually practice what is being talked about here, it will bring about change. It will bring about your 4D life. The life that you desire, the life that you define, the life that is divinely intended for you, and Spirit only intends, God only intends good for you. God is for you. God loves you unconditionally. Nothing you have ever done, nothing you will do, nothing you're doing right now is going to change God's love for you. You need to know that. Just breathe that in. Just breathe that in. God loves you.